Hello everyone, welcome back to a new replay cast. Today we're going to be having a look at, in the bottom right spawning as the red Terran uThermal, and in the bottom left spawning as the blue Zerg, it's going to be not 3 AM Lambo, or no team, however you want to read it. Who is not in a team, and Thermi of course is on liquid. So my teammate, nice. Map is going to be Golden Wall, which tends to play out kind of funny in ZVT, because a lot of the time we'll see Terran expand towards the bottom side while we see Zergs expand to the top sides, and then you kind of get a desynced game where oh wow, what is this? Is this 3 before pool? Oh no, it's just a drone scout. Okay, so getting very popular. I feel like the last few ZVTs I've seen has been drone scouts all around, making sure that indeed there is no kind of proxy rexes. So Lambo spotting all the locations, going pretty deep, even checking the edges there, making sure there's no proxy rexes. And yeah, it seems like he's safe for now. We'll spot the SCV moving across the map. So now for sure we'll know, alright, there's most likely no rexes on the map. Let's see what's going to happen. Oh wow. Plays a third hatch at 20 supply. So a reason we don't see a 20 supply third hatch a lot in ZVT is because usually those proxy rexes are a danger, but I guess if you drone scout initially, then the 20 hatch makes a lot of sense, because it does not allow for the Terran to block that hatchery either with the Reaper or the SCV. So we might see uThermal try to go for that block with the SCV or the Reaper. No, he doesn't care at all, so I guess wouldn't have mattered in this case for Lambo, but it's still nice to get that hatchery down quick and early. One drone will almost fall. Decent drone micro, so just pull these away at this point though. Ugh, this is nasty. Needs to rebuild that spore once again. Another spore goes down, so 2 spores being forced just by this single Reaper. Now goes to the third base, sees it's almost done already. Oh, look at this. A little urubu over there. It's a bird. If you push into it with one of your units, it will start flying away. I've done that many times already, as I am an animal expert when it comes to the animals in StarCraft 2. I know their behavior. I know the best way to hunt them. Look at this. Screw, screw. A really ugly looking bird. So we have this Reaper, a little bit of a fight with the queens, but I don't think this Reaper will be very successful. His queens are just a little bit stronger. 2 tumors will end up going down and get successfully defended. What do we have here as an opener for uThermal? This is most likely going to be some amount of cars into Liberators. Once again, we see the CC being built before the cars, meaning this is relatively economic focused. And we're going to be seeing a Viking actually as an opener. Wow, that's cool. So Hellion into Viking is going to be the poison that Thermi has picked. Now the nice thing about the Viking, of course, is you can get some scout denial. You can get these overlords away from a lot of the main paths, making drops, making run-bys a little bit stronger. What otherwise could have been? It could have been a medevac, it could have been a Liberator. So you're less threatening and more denying vision when you get a Viking. And it works really nicely into Liberator or into a medevac for a Hellion drop. So you initially deny the vision and then you follow up with your aggression. So that's pretty cool. Thermi finds the first Overlord. Overlord will be able to see that there's a second unit on the way. So that's very important for Lambo, that there is indeed going to be a second starport unit. And he's like, alright, he can mentally prepare for that, and maybe he can even send start a spore over here. So that's definitely not a Banshee spore, it is a Liberator spore. It's really in one of those lib positions. Not a lot of Overlord are too deep onto the map, so I kind of like how Lambo is playing it so far. Third base is up, not a lot of damage has been done by these Hellions either. Not a lot of anything has happened so far in this game, honestly. Just right now we have 8 cars, 2 barracks, 2 E-base being added, so 8 car Viking lib opener. You see this Overlord being pushed away, Liberator joining in the middle. Queen somehow knowing what was gonna happen and Just runs straight into the Liberate. Let's see if Lambo's paying attention. Hellions moving into the third phase. Lip in the main is doing quite some damage here. Getting a lot of kills. Hellions are getting a lot of kills. This Liberator. Didn't quite see how many kills he got, but total workers killed of 60. Now, the question of course is, was that worth it for uThermal? He does get 15 workers, but he loses 8 of his cars. He loses the Liberator, so all pressure has been relieved. Unit lost stab tells us that it's about equal in unit lost, but I'm not entirely sure who this is good for, honestly. It feels like a relatively even trade. Couple of links heading into the third base will be able to pick up 1 or 2 workers, maybe even more if uThermal does decide to go through with this. No, we'll be fine for now for Lambo, who's getting a fourth base, getting 1-1 upgrades. Very late lair as well. We don't see this very much anymore these days. It's all about that quick lair, that quick spire, especially from the Koreans. Delayed upgrades, but Lambo really being quite far ahead with his upgrades, seeing his 1-1 already done. Now, the thing with upgrades in this matchup, of course, is that you... it's kind of difficult for Zerg sometimes to tech straight to Hive. So even if they get very fast 1-1 and then very fast 2-2, they still will struggle to get that fast 3-3 because it's very expensive to get there, and then to research it. It seems a lot more expensive for them than it feels for Terran for some reason. Terran always seems to just have some money for that 3-3 if they truly need to. Now, I mentioned before that we might be seeing some bottom side play of the map, but uThermal actually opting for the top side of the map as well, taking this base as his third and taking a 5th gas immediately makes me believe we're not going to be seeing some kind of 8 Rex play. As I say that, we see 8 Rexes on the way and a second factory, so that's quite interesting. Usually when you see 8 Rex, you only see a single factory, but double factory 8 Rex is something I haven't seen before, and we do see a 4th CC on the way as well. So uThermal definitely hoping to go into a longer game here. Lambo's drone count is looking healthy at 66, but it's not great either. Much would have preferred seeing him around 74, 75 at this point already. I mean, it's pretty late into the game. Creep threat is looking healthy though. He has a big run by being set up as well, but tanks being at home should be able to absolutely defend this. This is not a very cost efficient trade whatsoever here for Lambo, who ends up killing a tank but loses like 35 links for it. So, yeah, you see, falling behind a little bit in unit lost stab right now. Needs to rebuild those links, so rather than adding those drones that I much would have preferred already at this point, we're just seeing more links being added initially. No 5th base on the way yet for Lambo, and Lambo seems to be falling behind a little bit right now in worker count. Painting copper on top of this mineral does a little bit of damage. Turret helps out. Good worker pool by uThermal, who managed to survive with the majority of the SCVs there. Only 59 workers for him, which is pretty low. 4th base on the way is going to be a planetary, of course. Immediately builds another command center, as we have a 3 medevac squad just trying to deny some creep. And this is not an army that wants to fight, right? This is an army that wants to make small trades with Widow Mines, sniper baneling here and there, try to deny some creep. Just preparing for that follow-up 2-2 push. Most of the time. Oh. Good pickup. We have a couple of mines over here, which could be tanked by individual links. Lambo not noticing is helping out uThermal a fair amount. See, this is what I was talking about. We see 2-2 finish now, and we're still on layer attack. So, actually, second layer being researched. And this is something we don't see a lot. Now, the reason for this is because no, just kidding. There's no reason for this. It's just bad. Probably wanted to build a hive, accidentally build a second layer. Happens to the best. Even though they have different properties. Maybe he uses grid. So we have muscular augments completing here. Hydras on the way. Hive finally starts as the main layer gets cancelled now, so that's good. Couple of mines with drilling claws moving on the map. First with the Thor. Huh. Okay, so the Thor is confusing me for well, one reason only is because we only really see Thors being built in case the Zerg plays Mutalisk. So either uThermal thought this was going to be Mutalisk. Yeah, he did. He cancelled the second Thor and now starts tank production because he sees Hydras. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. I was very confused. This is a good trade for uThermal, by the way. Getting pretty decent trades all around the map right now. Another drop into the third base of the Lambo. Fifth base still not really mining. 77 workers, which is on the lower side. We've seen some Zergs opting for those higher drone counts. 80, 85 drones. 2 Marines will end up dropping into the main base here. For a mine drop heading to the top side of the map. It's going to be hard to do some damage. I mean, this will fly straight into vision for a solid 12 seconds. We have a couple of spores here as well. Lambo has plenty of time to get in position. I mean, this kind of just gets cleaned up for completely useless. uThermal actually dropping a fair amount in supply here. No response yet to this mine drop. Okay, here we go. 2 spores, 1 queen. And 4 burrowy boys. Still a single mine in there. 5 drones go down. I mean, it's not the greatest trade, but it distracts a little bit. Gives uThermal some time to set up extra bases. This planetary still needs to finish, obviously. Gets 4 more kills, so that's actually kind of nice. Places the Widow Mine somewhere else as well. Lambo just moves the spore and will be absolutely fine. 3-3 finally starts for Lambo, +3 is already on the way for uThermal, so even though he was behind in upgrades earlier, now he's going to be slightly ahead with his 3-3, or at least with his +3 attack. We have a run by onto this planetary, but this is kind of the problem for Zerg, is when they don't have that massive drone count, and when they're only really at you know, the high 70s, low 80s. Oh, big fight actually happening. Pick up for uThermal, but so far the fights, the small skirmishes have been going to uThermal, but the big fights have been going for Lambo every single time. You see, even in the unit loss tab at the moment. What I was gonna say is that these run-bys really only seem to work when the Zerg is at a very high drone count, so we're talking high 80s, low 90s perhaps even, maybe even 95, 94, something like that. We've seen Vayner be very good at that now. We have a big engagement once again, partially off of creep. A lot of Hydras are falling. Good stutter stepping here by uThermal. Managed to dodge a lot of the banings. We'll be able to clean off a couple of those Hydras as well as they're trying to move back onto creep. These queens seem extremely vulnerable as well, of course. Not quite the speedy boys, especially of creep, so 3 queens will end up falling. I think this was a good trade for uThermal, yes. 3k resources lost more in that fight for Lambo. Just off of creep never really seems to be the way. Now we get one of those on-creep fights, big mine hits to start the fight with. Tank on the high ground position, doing a lot of damage as well. Good micro here coming out of uThermal. The split's not great so far here for Lambo, who seems to be catching a lot of mine fire every time he has a fight. Also partially fighting off of creep initially didn't really help him there. His bank is running a little bit dry. uThermal does smell something and wants to move forward. Parasiting bomb going down. Tank on the high ground, or tank on the low ground gets taken out. This seems to be going a lot better for Lambo right now. As 3-3 finishes up for him as well. There's no high ground vision right now. Can't really see that high ground tank. Creep needs to be rebuilt, but how many queens there? There's 4 queens. Could move them forward. Of course, losing those 3 creep queens is pretty painful. It's gonna hurt in the long run. You see a couple of tumors going down already, being queued up. Turrets being pushed forward on the map. I'm not quite sure what these turrets are for, because there's no real air units. I guess the Viper, but yeah, I guess the Viper really is the only answer here. uThermal very high worker count, by the way. Very uncommon to see for Terran to go and get this many worker, because usually the way Terran plays... Oh wow. Actually spots this run by with the sensor tower and decides, alright, I can just send some units there. Lambo sends a couple of links to the bottom side of the map. So we have these 3 queens just chilling around for now. Not doing very much. Yeah, what I was saying was, you usually don't see very high worker counts for Terran because they can get a lot of orbitals instead and use mules to mine. So in that case, you get a higher army supply and still have very high income. That doesn't seem to be the case here, in which uThermal, you know, he's getting a couple of extra orbitals. It seems like right now he's on 5 orbitals. Not quite the soul levels of greediness and orbitals that we sometimes see in his games, but definitely a decent number so far. So a couple more are being built here. Most likely will turn into orbitals eventually, as there's no more bases to be taken on the top side of the map. 3 CCs being built on the bottom side as well, and uThermal seems to have his eyes on the prize here, as this bottom base is the next target. There's a squad of 4 units here in the middle. Shouldn't be able to do too much. Mine's burrowing. Let's see if Lambo responds. He does respond. We'll get this hatchery. And with that hatchery, the hopes and dreams of Lambo are turning to the bottom side of the map. Getting to know this new area of the map. Seemingly futile. So far, at least. A couple of Vipers trying to, well, not trying to, they can probably just kill this bad boy. Tank will get a single shot before it gets absolutely distracted. Taken out of this world. Oh, we actually have an orbital flying over. Not a very big fan of an orbital in this position. Now, I can imagine why he would build an orbital here if you can build a planetary at this location. Because then you kind of have that bottom side, you know, kind of on lockdown. What Zerg is going to run by to this base if there's a planetary over here? Big engagement of creep here for Lambo, who actually gets a lot done here. Gets a bunch of liberators, gets a bunch of tanks. Now needs to start being careful, as off creep the fights never seem to go too well for Zerg players. Just a couple more decent Bane connections, and it's like, alright, that was good enough. Time to go back home. Bottom side gets set up as well now. Might be a run by, might be a flank. I would love if Lambo takes out these minerals so he can switch easier between the top and the bottom side with his army. Creep threat still a little bit lacking here. More creep tumors are being built. What the hell is this? This is the mega creep tumor. Look how bad it glows. That looks beautiful. What the hell? It's like the golden ticket of creep tumors. If you get this in your game, if it finishes up, the game just ends. Let's see what it will look like. Oh, okay, he just queued up 2 at the same time. So then it looks nice and golden, nice and glowy. Alright. Bit like my Photoshop skills. Just put a glow on it. We have another attack of creep. Lots of banelings being used here. We have the bottom side being attacked by uThermal. Lambo realizing he can't really attack up this ramp, or at least believes he can't attack up this ramp. Big mine connection will end up going down. I don't think there's enough Banes here for the bottom side of the map. There's so many Marauders, should be able to do a pretty decent job. Good splits coming out of uThermal. We'll be able to target down all of those Banes. If the Marines fight here, I feel like he can just take out those Hydras. And indeed he can. 19 workers do end up going down as base after base starts falling here for Lambo. Or for uThermal, sorry. Lambo also loses one of the bottom bases. Blinding Cloud being used on the planetary. Bane's actually getting very good connections, and now that worker count of uThermal is starting to come into play, because he lost 30 workers, but he still has 63 left. That's pretty decent, I must say. +3 range attack finally being done. Everything seems to be getting cleaned up for uThermal at this point. He has a lot of orbitals still, don't get me wrong. We see 10 orbital commands, so he can get a very, very low worker count at this point. We see Lambo still trying to make things work off creep. At this point, I'm not entirely sure about it anymore. Maybe he just needs to regroup, get a couple of extra workers, and try to really saturate these bottom bases. He does have the gold at this point. We're gonna need to see some creep spread on the bottom side as well. I think this is the one thing that's really lacking. Lambo realizes that as well. I still feel like taking out these minerals would be a big plus for Lambo, but I could be wrong there, of course, as well. I just feel like Lambo is the one that needs the rotations more at this moment, that needs to be able to defend that bottom side a lot easier. than uThermal does. So we have a lot of Banes rolling in, no mine connections so far. Might manage to shoot as it dies. No more mine connections, and uThermal might be in a little bit of trouble here. Good split, Parasitic Bomb doing a lot of damage on all of these medevacs. I think Lambo will end up getting pushed back here. Needs to be careful not to overextend, especially off of creep, of course. We still have a big army here on the bottom side of the map, not really doing anything. Wouldn't mind to see that being used synchronized with that top army. A lesser Zerg would have exploded all of the Banes on top of those rocks. Now we do have Lambo setting up for some kind of attack. uThermal manages to smell it with his amazing game sense, honestly. He sees the rocks are gone. It's like, hey, wait a second. What's happening over here? Lambo moves forward. Might be a bit too deep here though, because this army is way bigger for uThermal. Lambo will start hitting this gold base, but the gold base is empty. So uThermal is going to be like, alright, you can take my gold base. I don't give a crap. I'm gonna be taking your bottom side base. I'm gonna be attacking your gold. There's no creep here. There's no army. Good luck. And I think Lambo right now is realizing, oh crap, this might be a mistake, as even up here there's not enough Banes to truly trade cost effectively here. Good stutter step being used here by uThermal. Gets a lot of the links. Links don't really get to surround. Hydras are hardly shooting. If there was one or two medevacs there, I'm pretty sure uThermal would have been able to win this fight as well. Lambo is falling in supply. Worker count extremely low at this point, as we see a Liberator being used for the high ground here. Orbital just chilling in the corner. Not quite sure what he's doing. Liberator, do they have lib range? Yeah, they do. This feels like a very long range right there. Now, Lambo can never really breach this, right? There's too many reinforcements. There's still pretty decent income as well. We have a lot of orbitals still on the map. 9 orbital commands. Now, there's so many mules. Like, the moment this lands, I really want to see the income. If he drops all of his mules, we see Lambo with an income of about 1.6k, 52 workers. Come on, Chief, drop some mules for me. Make it rain! Not seeing anything like that yet. Gas count is pretty low for uThermal though, which is annoying and worries me a tiny bit, honestly. Still no mules being used here. A couple of scans going down. Yeah, gas count extremely low for uThermal. We'll be able to max out, of course, just on Marines and Marauders, as neither of those cost a lot of gas. But how healthy is the medevac count? 9 seems to be fine. Mine count is fine as well. Big scan on top of this army. I think uThermal has another to be able to defend this as well. Good mine, it gets a lot of the links at once. Top side of the map also being used here for uThermal, who's just scanning like a madman. There's a bunch of lurkers here. Do they have the range upgrade? Yes, they do. They don't have adaptive talents quite yet, so the burrowing speed is extremely low. I think Lambo is running a little bit out of steam here, because he does not have the mining. He has 1 base mining currently, and it's the gold. And there's not a single worker here. There's no patches here. See a couple of lurkers trying to take that bottom side. Good abducts on these medevacs. He will be able to get them if he just targets them down for a little bit. Lurkers doing some damage here. As we have uThermal sniping a base that didn't have any mining left, but I don't think it's going to matter, as the final scan goes down. These lurkers will end up falling, and uThermal is winning at every angle. GG gets called. uThermal takes this rather intense TVZ on Golden Wall. Now, if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, as that helps me a lot. Don't forget to smash the like button, and then I'll see you all next time for a new video. Thank you very much for watching, and